That's it.
Afternoon, Mr. E.
Right.
Mind and mute Facebook.
Yeah.
Afternoon, Chris. Afternoon, George. Mind and mute Facebook.
Sorry, I just opened up full screen there.
George. Mind and mute Facebook.
That's David Macbeth.
Something's no muted there, David. We're getting background noise.
And I know I'm wondering what's going on. David Macbeth, Maggie Brennan, John McNee, Max McLachlan, Sandra Wallace, Mark Roundtree. Chaps, I've got a wee apology to give you. I've picked up a blooming silly cold and it's affecting my voice. Head next door, he's going to be doing most of the talking, you'll be thankful of. And I'll butt in when I need to. So, sorry about that.
That's cool. Give you a wee chance to get on board.
Yeah.
So, how goes it, Dave? Oh, better light my candle.
Well, yeah. Wee bit sickened off with the budget, as it was called yesterday.
Aye, I'll give you a chance to get on board before we break that.
It certainly wasn't a budget for us, the normal, ordinary people in this world. It was a budget for those who have quite a lot of money.
Yep. It certainly was a budget for those who have plenty of money, but we'll get into it in a wee minute. Right, that's 80 on board and climbing steadily. So the budget, David.
Yeah.
Anything jump out at you? You want me just to give the general breakdown?
I thought it was wonderful the fact they gave it a big build up on Sky, like regarding he's going to bring in something to do with kids and free childcare, and they're all going, "Oh, this is wonderful! This is absolutely wonderful!" And when it turned out he was going to bring it in September 25, it was the situation where people would even be thinking about having wains, and maybe their wains would get something out of it.
And the other thing is, there's going to be a different government by then.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
So, anyway, let's have a look at the main things. Funding for projects in Scotland. Apparently, we're going to get the Edinburgh Festival is going to get a backhander, and so is Douglas Ross's constituency in Moray, where they're getting an investment zone apparently.
But wait a minute, do you see a connection here? Would you say in Edinburgh there's a high preponderance of Tory voters in Edinburgh?
No, but I wouldn't say there's a high preponderance of rich people.
And Dross, his area, obviously, So effectively, what's happening is we're getting a situation where the Tories in Scotland are being rewarded for being Tories in Scotland.
That's true, because you've got to remember there's a A75 project they intend to take undermine the Scottish Government by infrastructure investment there as well.
Absolutely.
So funding for projects in Scotland, what a push. The investment zones, Oz investment zones like green ports or free ports, whatever you want to call them. Oz the days they move work from one area to another area.
Yep.
Simple as that. That's all. Energy price guarantee. The energy price guarantee will remain frozen at 2.5 thousand for the typical household in the southeast of England.
Yeah.
As we've already discussed, the typical household here in Scotland is spending more than 3,500 a year because Scotland is that little bit colder.
That's right.
And our communities are much more spread out.
As in England, we were actually, when I heard people talking about Scotland, they all went, "Oh, it's two overcoats colder in Scotland,"
Poor Willie's bucket, just hold on with the American petrodollar at an end and designed to bring in CDBCs. We'll get there. I promise you.
We've been having a wee chat about that just before.
It's not something David and I are not keeping an eye on, and I can assure you we are. Right, where are we? So basically the energy price freeze will continue for 3 months, but that's about it. Right, prepay meters, that's a bit of good news for those on the lowest income, so we're more likely to be on prepaid meters. The cost of electricity to those with a prepaid meter should be brought in line with those who are on direct debit. But that's going to cost us, the taxpayers, subsidising once again the huge profiteering energy companies to the tune of 220 million quid. But as I say, if you're on
off, do you think you're going to be, Mr. McGuinness?
£120, £127 a year exactly.
But by the time you get there, how much better off do you think you're going to be?
I'm not going to be any better off. Electricity is still fucking rising. Yeah. Pardon my French. Oh, and good news, Hugh had a wee look into the rules of YouTube. And guess what? As long as we don't swear in the first 7 seconds, they're not going to demonetize us. Talk about which folks will we've still got a fundraiser on the go for food banks. If you can afford to contribute, please do. Right, so Universal Credit, in line with Hunt's announcement, to expand free childcare provision to the under 2s. Changes will be made to ensure that universal credit payments intended to cover child care can be paid up front. For example, when a provider asks for payment, and it will be brought in by the summer of this year. There were changes announced to the process to receive personal independence payments, but that doesn't apply in Scotland, so we're waiting to find out.
There's a wee proviso there that wasn't really made obvious, is that to qualify for the childcare payments, both parents have to be in employment for at least 16 hours a week. And there you go. I think, to be honest with you, the thing that really needs pointing out is something that David pointed out to me quite right, is that the newspapers, by and large, had the story of, come on, Scotland, you need to get in line. And Hunt himself actually said that he was doing it to get in line with Scotland.
That's right. He was bringing in these child care hours to bring them in line with Scotland and how Scotland's system works. And yet this morning in the papers we'll get English MPs demanding that Scotland come on board, but when we've already got it, it's already been rolled out.
Yeah.
Fucking murder. Anyway, there's also changes to how personal independence payments and that has been paid. It doesn't quite, we don't use that system up here anymore. We've got the adult disability payment, and there's going to be consequentials, but we can't quite work it out, right? But we'll get to the consequentials towards the end. Right, pensions. Hunt lifts the cap on savers and how much they can put in. It used to be 40 grand a year, it'd be taxed, and then be taxed into their 40 grand. He's up to 60,000. Tax-free, and he's lifted the cap on the amount that fat cats can put into their pension pots. It used to be capped at 1.7 million, then they start taxing it again. But no, that cap's away.
Now, let me put in there, David, right? The number of people that affects is 7,000.
You might have
7,000 people, right? And do you know what it's worth? It's worth 142,000 plus change, right?
That's what I'm going to
right. And as one Tory minister said on TV this morning, it just shows how important we think those 7,000 people are, right? But those 7,000 people should always also realise that we the people, are as important to them as they are to us.
You're right. So that covers pensions. Alcohol duty. Wow, the whisky industry's no chuffed, is it? 12.6% on alcohol duty.
I don't drink.
Well, you don't smoke anymore either, so you're in a win-win situation. On a pre-rolled or pre-made cigarettes are going to go up by 6%. Hand-rolling tobacco is going to go up by 12.6%. So if you're a smoker of a hand-rolling cigarettes like I am, I'm seeing the price of my tobacco jumping nearly £2. So alcohol duty and tobacco duties get whacked. Fuel duty. And the planned 11 points rise in fuel duty being scrapped for 12 months. and the previous cut in VAT of 5% on fuel is to remain. It's to be made semi-permanent sort of thing. Corporation tax, this is the other big one. Corporation tax set to increase from 19% to 25%.
But you see, hang on, that doesn't affect me either, because I'm a tiny wee company.
Aye.
And my turnover is less than 50,000. So
Right.
my corporation tax stays at 19%.
I get that, David, but what I was saying, 1st of April.
So what have I gained so far? I've gained the increase in smoke because I don't smoke anymore. I've gained the increase in booze because I don't drink anymore, right? And I've gained the increase in corporation tax because, well, I'm too wee.
Right, Jimmy Bob, I'm sorry about that. You're right, I didn't put a notification out today. My wife's no well, and I forgot to tell David to take it earlier. So I do apologise. I had to run out to the chemist and pick up a prescription for her. Right, so where were we at? So corporation tax goes up 1st of April for big corporations from 19 to 25%. But it's not going to bring nothing in because investment is fleeing the bloody city. Nobody's investing. But we'll get to that shortly. Barnet consequentials. We just talked about PIP. What they're saying is there'll be 320 million Barnet consequentials for Scotland over 2 years. So roughly 150 million a year. And as was pointed out by John Swinney, when adjusted for inflation, it's actually only a net value of 40 million quid to the Scottish budget each year. Oops. Yeah. That's like finding that's Dougie Ross's loose change in the back of the fucking sofa.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
So they're the biggies, they're the big news in the budget. The other big news yesterday that Hunt was banging on about was the UK was going to avoid a recession. At that point, David and I started scratching our heads, and I turned round backwards and I said, "That fucking zip still there, David? How can GDP have failed by 5.4% since we actually had the Brexit take place in 2021? So GDP's doing 5.4%, and they're trying to tell us we're not in a recession. Jesus!
I saw fluff at the back of your head there.
Aye, I know the fluffing's coming out. Wow.
How stupid do they think we are?
That's the sort of contempt they have for us people. Jesus.
I know.
No recession. Oh, GDP's doing 5.4%, but no recession. Oh, and growth to be at 0.012%.
Even their own spokesman on defence this morning talked about the increase in defence spending. And what he did was he said, okay, it might be such and such 2.5% of GDP that we're going for. But when GDP is basically fuck all, right? That's still 2.5% of fuck all.
But they won't be telling us we're going to avoid the recession in one hand, while telling us we've got 5.4% in GDP since January 2021, when Brexit actually came into effect. I mean, it makes you wonder what the fuck, Francis, is going on. Stephen, we'll get to the banking crisis in a minute. And the other big news is
coming.
Investors are fleeing the city of London a million miles an hour. We'll get to what's going on in a couple of banks collapsing in America, and Credit Suisse or whatever it's called almost going tits up in Switzerland. But we'll get to that because that's quite important stuff, and it's being orchestrated. But we'll get there.
Let me just butt in there, right? There was a wonderful article put out by The Guardian a few days ago. If you go looking on either mine or Davies' timeline, you'll find it, and it's where the Guardian have literally peppered it with information, and it's one of those articles where you've got to read it quickly through just to get the idea of it, and then what you do is go back through it to get all the information out. I do highly recommend a read. If you
Wally's bucket, the West not going to suffer because of Biden, but the West is going to suffer, but we'll get there. Yeah. We really will get there. What we're seeing in the finance markets right now is being orchestrated by the G7 finance ministers. We'll get there. I promise you we'll get there. The other thing that was said we Hunt was he expects inflation to be down at 2.9% by the end of the year. At which point Davy had to call an ambulance to get me dragged up off the chair and taken away. Because by that time I was banging my head off the table going, no! No! What the fuck's my meds? Right. I just say the Bank of England just raised their eyebrows and went, okay, what? The OBR shut his gob. The IFS went under the carpet. And Davies stuck his head up over the parapet and already made his prediction for inflation this year. It'll drop to, they're saying 5%, I'm saying 8% because of that article in The Guardian, funny enough. But I already knew what The Guardian's article was saying, and that's that the corporations are gouging us on food price inflation, which will keep inflation high.
There is an important thing to put in here, right? The OBR, the Office for Budget or Responsibility, was brought into existence in the reign of King David Cameron and his little prince, George Osborne, right? And we knew what it was about at that time. By and large, it's made some pretty okay predictions over the past so many years. But by and large, you have to remember the OBR is a Tory construct, and they will say whatever they need to do to back up a Tory Chancellor or a Tory Prime Minister. Okay?
Class action couldn't stop laughing at the Chancellor's budget. I tell you, David had won an ambulance for me. Fucking mental. It was austerity on stilts, wrapped up with a big bow tie saying money for the rich.
Yeah.
Wow. Laughing. I don't know if laugh. I think hysterics was more like it class action. Oh, Jesus. Honest goodness. Absolutely mental.
You're in a situation now where it's getting worse and worse and worse. And the only thing you can do is cackle like a woman insanity victim, like madman.
I mean, you could. Anyway, the Chancellor's budget wrapped up and parcelled, and the outcome is austerity on stilts, kids, all right? Things are going to get worse, as Mr. Hunt tells us this morning. Living standards are still going to drop for a 40-year absolute abysmal mess, and apparently we're not going into a recession, which nearly cracked me up. I was banging my head off the table at the time. All right, David, let's move on to the leadership debate here in Scotland. Thankfully, the televised debates are over. I have to say that I have found it to be one of the least gratifying things I've ever seen in my life. But with 3 so-called party big hitters here in Scotland trash the party's reputation, and they brought into disrepute the party's reputation on holding ballots. Now, I don't know how long I don't know how long you and I have been voting in SNP ballots. It's a bloody long time. I've never felt that any of them were ever rigged.
I remember one time, and I've mentioned it before on this programme, where the SNP were discussing whether they were going to go for NATO membership after a referendum, and obviously after we become independent. And that was one of the most cutthroat debates that the SNP have ever had. However, even Brian Robertson of the BBC, the great big fat guy that was there at the time, the political editor, he said that was one of the finest political debates he had ever seen in all his years in politics.
It was a good debate, that one. Infighting's not a good look. No, you're right.
We could do it then. Why couldn't we do it now?
But while we're talking about the absolute shambles of these 3 that are standing for leader, let's hope once they get in the chair they can pull their acts together. And by the way, just so that you know, it's Ash and Kate that are shouting about the integrity of the vote. Why? Because they're actually still behind Humza, and they think the party's rigging it in Humza's favour. They'll know. People are looking at it and saying, who's the safe pair of hands here? And whether we like it or not, and David and I have said, we're not telling you we're voting for. I haven't asked him, he's not asked me, and it's none of your business. He's making your own mind up. But what I can say is they've trashed their own reputation, and now now they're saying that we're not a Democratic Party because we rig votes. Well,
by the way,
all the years I've been a bloody member, we haven't.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for correcting me, son. I did mean Brian Taylor. I do apologise. But anyway,
So it's been one of the least gratifying things I've seen, and it's not getting any better. What I will say is all three of them have said independence within 5 years. None of them have said how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But whoever has said he hasn't ruled out a plebiscite Scottish election, a snap plebiscite Scottish election. So I guess he's hedging his bets to try and keep Kate and Ash after winning. But
whoever it is, we will support. Right?
Yeah. And the bookies have still got to whom's out in front, Kate even money, and Ash is knowing they're running. Right, that's the bookies for these. Okay, but what I will say, it's one of the least gratifying things I've ever seen in the SNP in all the years I've been a member.
Yeah.
It really is. It's turning me off. And if it's turning me off, what's it doing to the electorate? Which brings us on to a couple of polls that were out last weekend, David. We've now discovered that these polls putting independent support at 39 and 42% were actually manipulated to get that result. They didn't wait the polls for voter intention.
Yeah, no, hang on. Let me put it in here, right? Who was the polling company that brought out the 39% for Sky?
YouGov.
YouGov, correct. Who owns YouGov? Who owned YouGov?
Savage Javid.
No.
The other one, what do you call him? The one that used to be Chancellor.
Aye.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. This is wake up time. Who was the guy that used to be Chancellor? He did a deal with HMRC. He owned YouGov. Come on. Away. Come on. Do we have any?
Anyway, to let people understand what was wrong with the waiting for the polls, YouGov generally don't put their data out anyway. They just make piss up.
It was Zahawi.
Zahawi, that's right. Well done. Anyway.
Well done, Jim.
He's trying for the leadership to be First Minister. I don't know, I haven't heard. To be honest with you, I've been busy looking at the budget today and looking at the situation with the bonds market, because that's what's really causing the problems in the banking sector at the moment. The value of the holdings are plummeting.
Don't go into that just now. We're keeping that. We're keeping that.
Aye. So, see, David and I have no.
But the polling was done by YouGov.
But the other one was David. Let's talk about the one for Scotland on Sunday that placed it at 40. Support independence at 42%. Now, what was discovered when we went and had a look at the numbers, and Business for Scotland put an article out in this one. You can find it in my timeline. But what they didn't do was wait for voting intention. Now, generally, when you want these polls, folks, to let you understand, what they do is they ask the people they're polling and the likelihood of them to vote in a 1 to 10 scale. Anything that's under 5 is binned. That takes a couple of hundred people right out the polling. And that's how they weight it again. And now, with the February one that gives us 53% support for independence, it was weighted for voting intentions, the likelihood for people to vote. And that one for Scotland on Sunday, the proprietors of the paper asked them not to bother doing that.
Yeah, okay. Right now, on the other one, YouGov. YouGov are special in one single respect. Whenever they run a poll, people like Professor Sir John Curtis say to them, right, where's the raw polling data? And YouGov always refuse to show any of the polling data.
They show some, but they don't show the full workings.
Correct.
They've never given and John Curtis, he rubbish day 2 polls at the weekend as well.
Correct.
But he hasn't said nothing because it looks as if him as the head of the head of the watchdog for psephology, it looks like he's about to take action against these two. He's going to give them a warning to behave themselves.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So the last 2 polls that put us at 42 and 39% in favour of yes votes, they were absolute crap.
Yeah.
They weren't weighted properly. So the data that was put out in the press was deliberately misleading, and they know it was deliberately misleading, and that's why Business for Scotland get battered into Savanta Comrades and to Scotland on Sunday, who asked Savanta Comrades likelihood to vote, because in the February poll, no was winning until the likelihood to vote was weighted in and factored, and then that swapped it around to 53% yes, because those who were likely to vote no were less likely to turn out.
Well, as Professor Sir John Curtis says, that the polls are there to gauge the feelings of the people. Whereas right now, what we've got is the polls are creating the feelings. They're creating a narrative that's making people go a certain direction.
And that's why I always go back to the social attitude studies, David, because they're more honest. I mean, when I'm looking at this data, I like to look at the annual social attitude studies.
Yeah, and also we have got other polls as well, which is the conglomerate, the polar polls.
Aye.
Where that tends to dispel a lot of the outlying polls.
Yep.
Where what they've gone is they've went and questioned just what A, B. These are the people that are the best paid in the country and all the rest of it. And they might not like any change in circumstances to do with the Constitution.
Thanks, Alison. Anyway, that's the polls in the way. The polls and the leadership contest. We say David and I are not going to get involved in the hurly-burly of it, but what I will say is May State's turning us off. And May State's coming actually be unionists are having a field day, and their activists are having a field day in the groups actually. Between them and the Alpha Party, it's making it look like a real horrible thing.
Anyway, the good news is it is coming to an end. All right.
The television hustings have came in. David, you and I know that this stuff should always be done behind closed doors. You and I have been at this a long time. It's always been done behind closed doors.
Had I had my way, they would have never allowed a single TV company in there. If they managed to get stuff leaked, then okay, I don't know what we'd have done about that. But
no, I don't let reporters on. I just wouldn't let it go to TV stations.
Yeah.
You know, you would have picked a local rag and say, we were having the hustings here and there in Cumbernauld. They get the Airbnb press to cover it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
it was turned into a circus. That's all it was.
That's true, Stephen. A lot of the polling is done by pro-union organisations, so they get to decide what the questions are. But the point David's making is real. At this point in time, polling companies are trying to find out the opinions of the people. They're trying to influence the opinions of the people.
That's right.
And that's not what they're for. And that's why I always go back to social attitude studies, because they are more accurate and they're taking out a longer period of time, and they question a lot more people.
That's also why none of you should be scared of getting into a proper election for Scotland's independence. Because I tell you now, see, if things were even and equal and all the rest of it, right, we would win. We'd have won 2014 hands down had things been even and equal.
Oh, they're played by the rules.
The politicians might have said, "Oh well, we agreed to run with it." I didn't. I totally objected to what happened in 2014. I watched them 3 tubes come up the road during Purdah. They shouldn't have spoken. Shouldn't be allowed to speak. Shouldn't have been on TV. Shouldn't have had anything to do with the newspapers.
The press should have been dragged into court for that. They knew it was Purdah. They didn't right to advertise that to the three amigos. None.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. So that's us covered the debacle that's the leadership race and the polls. So let's move on to the news that the Scottish and Welsh governments are not going to give a legislative consent for the Australian and New Zealand trade deals because of how it will affect devolution and how it will affect the agricultural sector in Scotland and Wales. Now, to let you understand, folks, in the bill which is to be put before Parliament to pass these bills, which, by the way, the trade deals will be ratified by Westminster, whether consent is given by Holyrood or Cardiff, because, let's face it, the Sewell Convention has been thrown under a bus.
Yes.
But in that bill, it allows them to legislate in the devolved areas of agriculture. the agriculture is devolved to the Scottish Parliament and to the Welsh Parliament. This particular piece of legislation going through Westminster allows Westminster to bypass the devolved administration to own agriculture altogether, basically taking away one of the basic competencies of the Scottish and Welsh Parliaments.
That's right.
So they're not going to give legislative consent, but it won't matter. And while we're at it, I did predict this, and it's going to happen. Alistair Jack, the Governor General, is about to tell them that they cannot introduce the deposit return scheme, and he's going to section 35 it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think should happen with that, David?
Well, I think we just do it anyway.
Correct.
You just tell me fuck off, we're going to do it anyway.
The reason I asked that in that way is because David and I both agreed on this in a previous conversation. But we need whoever the leader, whoever the First Minister is, to be able to stand up and go, no, we're going to continue to do it anyway.
And I know people keep thinking I'm coming down on whom's side here, but I'm no. What I will say is, out of the three contenders, he's the only one that says he's going to fight this Section 35 order.
Yeah.
The other two are going to allow Westminster to walk over the top of them on the issue of gender recognition. Then Westminster's going to walk right over the top of them on all issues.
Yeah.
And what
you have to understand is, when you've got a band of criminals like that who are robbing the sweet shop every morning before they go to school, the longer they get away with it, the more they're going to do it.
Yep. And Flynn left himself open to get battered in the Parliament at Prime Minister's questions and all, but I've stopped covering that stuff, so Punch and Judy shows you can only stomach so much of them. And Chris now favours Ash, apparently. But to be honest with you, Chris, once again, we're in a situation with Ash, and I'm not going to tell any of you how to vote, mate. Let me make this clear. But we're in a situation with Ash and Kate where they're not going to fight this Section 35 order. They're probably not fight the one on the deposit return scheme. They're not. If they're going to back down on one issue, then Westminster's going to take them for a ride on all issues. Holmes has always said they'll fight this one. Well, we fight them all. Don't know, but we need somebody to stand up and put their horn up and say this far and no further.
Yeah. And
I don't see it. I don't see it in Kate and Ash if they're not willing to stand up. And the other thing is, I've said with they two as well, and this includes Humra, in fact, all three. When you become First Minister, you have to represent everybody in your society. Everybody.
That's right.
Ash and Kate have made it clear they don't want to represent the trans community. I don't put your vote in, but it's up to you guys to make your own minds up.
Just make your own minds up. That's it. You know, and please don't listen to anybody else. Make your own mind up. Yeah.
Look at it. Look at the candidates, what they said. Whoever you favour, you put them in. They're being ranked, so rank them whatever way you feel is appropriate for you.
Yeah.
Okay. David and I are not telling you how you're going to vote. It's a private vote.
Yeah.
So there you go. So let's move on to the New Zealand and Australian trade deals not getting legislative consent for the Scottish and Welsh Parliament. 2, fears of another banking crisis.
Oh, yeah.
So we've seen a couple of banks fail in America.
We've only got 25 minutes to go. Do you think we can cover this in 25 minutes?
We'll give it a crack anyway. We've already seen a couple of banks in America fail. They had a run on them, and Credit Suisse is in trouble, but the Swiss Central Bank's going to run them a line of credit to keep.
Now, I'm going to pick up this bit of the conversation.
Right.
I have listened to David saying the problem with the banks is the fact that it's the battle between old money and new money. Old money is the banks, is the old banking system, and the new money is the big corporations. Yeah.
Yep.
So therefore, I'm going to then sweep it over to David. He's going to pick it up from there. Go on, David.
Well, the fight between new money and old money actually came to a head during quantitative easing, where the corporations could pick up lots and lots of money, borrow lots of money really, really cheaply, and they just kept storing it.
Yeah.
And then they would invest it, make a killing, pay back, and they're left with big bunch of money sitting in their holdings. And I mean holdings, no banks, holdings.
Yeah.
You know. And so we've got the central banks fighting the corporate world here. And the central banks, as we all know, are generally run by the Rothschilds. And you can look that one up. Almost them all, actually, are run by the Rothschilds. And they, as I say, there's a battle royal going on. Now, the battle royal at this point in time is taking place in the bonds markets, especially government bonds, who are losing their value rapidly. People normally flee into government bonds as a safe investment. But we're seeing the bonds markets taking a tanking at the moment as people bail. And the old money's buying up the government bonds. Is the new corporation, is bail for government bonds. And it's shaking the financial markets again. And this doesn't just this won't just infect the banks this time. It'll also affect hedge funds, who tend to invest heavily in bonds. So because bonds have good returns. So what we're seeing at the moment is a collapse in the bonds market. Now, I was watching the Financial Times report on this today, and they reckon it's going to stabilise itself within a couple of weeks. Whereas you and I know that this has been orchestrated by the G7 finance ministers to introduce CBDCs.
Yeah. The digital currency that they're going to use to control your life. And I assure you, that this, the more you look, the more that I've looked at it, and the more he's looked at it, the more we realise that this is bloody dangerous. For your life, let's just try and put a wee bit of flavour on this. Scottish independence. I fight for Scottish independence every day. So does he, right? Now, bit like the Chinese, they look at us, and we fall down the list of people that they would like to speak. Yeah. So therefore, they make it difficult for us. They make it impossible for us to speak. They make it impossible for us to live. Yeah. So that's the way it's going to go. That digital currency is going to be instantly controlled. So
the other thing it's going to do is it's going to clip the wings of the corporations.
Yes, that's right. Because if you figure it, if some of the old money, the central banks decide they want to take issue with a shell, right? They can make it whereby you can't buy it. No shell. That means fuel, right? And wow. And what they can do is they can tie up with their pals, the other central banks around the world, and they could make it whereby nobody can buy anything off shell, and shell becomes a thing of the past. Maybe a good thing, but to be honest with you, that's where it's going to go.
And that's the old money beating the new money. Wishy knows all about hedge funds and banking. He certainly made a killing for himself back in 2008 when he and his chums took out a certain Dutch bank.
Correct.
And that brought down Scotland, which was one of the biggest investment banks on the planet at the time.
Yeah.
And that was Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid.
Yeah.
Kwarteng.
The guy that made the most out of it was Rishi Sunak.
That's right. And Fred the Shred was the guy that suffered for it.
That's right. So therefore, we have a Prime Minister that is guilty of
insider trading.
Insider trading, absolutely right. And each one of you need to know and understand that we have a criminal. We've got a proper criminal running the UK Parliament.
And Mr. Reid's right. Big Brother will decide what you can and cannot buy and how much. And that's why the G7 finance ministers are desperate to bring in the central bank digital currencies, because, as Davies just pointed out, they can program what you can spend it on, which means they can bring the corporations to their knees.
The difficulty is that what they'll do is they'll do it to each one of you a slightly different way. And that means you won't fight. And you've got to realise that in order to be ready to fight, you need to be together. You need to be acting on each other's benefit.
Yeah,
And when I say fight, I'm talking about as in the unions. Remove your goods and services from the control of the Tories, and that's it. End of story. They've lost, and the central banks have lost as well.
Yep, and of course the best way to defeat the CBDC is to start using cash again. Stop swiping cards.
Absolutely, yes.
Stop swiping cards. Go to the post office. Go to the cash machine, and draw your budget for the week.
Yep.
Simple as that. Because this is getting serious, folks. And what we're seeing in the financial markets are being orchestrated by the G7 finance ministers. And their intention, as I say, is a fight between the old money and the new money. So we're talking about the Rothschilds, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, these sort of people. The people that get more money than actual countries and central banks.
Yeah.
So it's a battle royale going on out there, and we are going to be the losers, whatever way we're. And another thing people need to start with, take note of, David, is these 15 to 20 minute cities.
Yes.
And the idea is to date in cities is because that's where the major population is, and that's where your trouble's going to come from when you're in an authoritarian state.
Yeah. But what you need to realise is, yet again, they'll try to separate you, as in they'll try and affect everybody in a slightly different way. But you've got to realise that when it starts to get where you're getting blooming tied down to just within a few streets of where you live, you've got to realise it's time to blooming go, time to get on those streets and make them realise that they're not doing it.
I think the old shout is, whose streets?
Yeah, exactly.
Streets.
Yeah.
It's time, people, that we started making them realise once again that they work for us.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've said this. We pay their salaries, we elect them to work on our behalf, and we pay their salaries. What we really need today is sort out the electoral systems in Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Because when you get right, don't you? We're electing these people, and the minute they're elected, they're not working in our interest, they're working in their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in their corporate masters' interests, as we've seen with this particular incarnation of a regime in Westminster. You know.
Well, that's Facebook.
You're absolutely right, Mr. E. It is being trialled between banks and at least 3 banks in America, the CBDCs, right?
That's Facebook frozen up.
Seems all right at this end, and I've got a full signal.
Yeah, it's
tells you right above the wee window at the side, David, how strong your signal is.
Yeah, it's doing the Norman Collier for me. That's anyway, not mine.
Alberfest Foundation, have I a way out? Have I a way out? Have you? And the Alba Party got a way out?
Yeah, it's definitely
reasonable. Why the Alba campaign with all the big signs in the middle of the motorway didn't work? Alba for independence, Scotland for independence. That's exactly what that says. It didn't say a political party for independence. That's how stupid the political leaders at the top of the Alba Party is. They named the party after the country. So now when you see a sign saying Scotland for independence, you don't think you're a political party, you think of Scotland. Yeah. So what a jingle that was. Alba for independence, Scotland for independence. Where's the fucking news flash? Have I got a way out Alba Fest? No, you find a way out Alba Fest. Macy's can't even pronounce Alba. You don't call it Alba. Wow.
Dear.
Yeah, I know what way you. Aye, it's to start up and tell them this far and no further.
Yes. But it is going to take every single one of us.
I don't see. And a new poll on the 13th of March on voting intentions for a Scottish parliamentary election. Alba 2%. They're not even going to get a representative again in the next Scottish election.
Yeah.
And they're demanding the rest of an answer.
What I have found rather, I don't know, call it disgusting, what you like, is that it's people that I know that support Alba that have been the most mouthy on the leadership elections.
And there's nothing to do with them either.
Yeah, I find that a bit shoddy. I won't get involved in your leaders' elections when and if they happen. Please don't do it to mine. Okay.
And as I say, new poll says they're not even going to get themselves an elected representative in the next either the Westminster or Scottish voting intentions. And that's because the political masters at the top of the party were too stupid to realise that they were naming the party after the country, and the big signpost saying Alpha for Independence meant nothing to anybody down the road except for Scotland for Independence.
Yeah.
It doesn't say a political party for independence, it says Scotland for Independence. Alpha.
Yeah.
Alpha for independence, Scotland for independence. It doesn't even, I mean, it was so stupid, a jingle and a waste of your money. You're the party members who are paying for these bloody posters everywhere.
Yeah.
And advertising everywhere. And you see across the book the National, Alpha for independence. Oh, well, you know, it's the National. It says Scotland for independence. I don't relate that to a political party, do you?
Well, okay.
And they're wondering why they're not breaking into the public consciousness. Wow. You know, they might at least have named themselves something that they would have caught the public imagination.
All I can do is repeat what I've heard of a few females that I know that have made their views known in it, is they would never back any party that man was in charge of.
I know, but that's the court of public opinion, you know. With the Alpha Party arresting the back.
That's what it's about at the end.
Everybody says the man was cleared in a criminal court. He was. But he wasn't cleared in the court of public opinion, because that's what the press is there for, to make sure he didn't get cleared in the court of public opinion. So therefore, there's a couple of reasons why the Alpha Party, and I've not got a problem with them. I really don't. Some of the noises they make are a bit annoying, but one of the reasons why they're not making it into public consciousness is they named themselves after the country. So every time somebody sees Alpha for independence on a sign at the side of the road, or a vote me a bus stop, or a vote me a newspaper, they just think Scotland's for independence, is it? Well, that's what we're offering for, eh? They don't associate it with a political party. They really don't associate it with a political party.
Thank you, Geordie.
Aye, thanks, Geordie. They don't associate Alpha with a political party. They don't.
Yeah. Well, you know, okay. We can wear that one until it's worn out. But to be honest with you, at this moment in time, I'm a bit sick in what I've seen off of the people that are known Alba supporters.
But also, this particular election has nothing to do with it.
No, but who have been pretty ruthless in terms of our leadership election. And I can assure you, when it comes time for the Alba or Alapa party or whatever they're called, get into having a leadership election, I won't. I assure you, I promise, I will never, ever, ever interfere.
No, never that. I wouldn't interfere with the mechanisms in our political party either. But there's one there that I wanted to redo. You've got an idea how you use a people's assembly, okay? No, there was another one there that I wanted to redo. Where did it go? If we don't stand up for what we want, then we might as well close Holyrood. That's a good point. As I say, one of the things that I found very disappointing in this leadership race is that there's nobody really willing to stand up and say this far and no further.
Yeah.
But let's hope that Lorna Slater of the Greens has the bottle to stand up and tell Jack when he says no, you can't do it. She's going to say, I will, and we're doing it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Stephen, who the 72,000 members have been announced today that the SNP now only have 72,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas after 2014, we know it went up as high as 128,000, I think it was.
Two reasons for that, yeah?
Yep.
One reason is an awful lot of the members just don't have the money. And, you know, when it comes to feeding their family or whatever, you can understand, right?
Yep.
The other one is you can see that because Nicola's blooming bailed out and we're going through the leadership election, they're no sure. and it's the ones that are the fair weather friends, let's call them. I'm not being ruthless there, but that's the way some people are, right? They'll go, I'm just out of it for the moment, right? Once they see it build back up again, they'll be back in. Don't worry.
The other thing is, David, of course, whether you're a party member or not, we're looking at these polls and the voting intentions of these people are still SNP.
Yeah.
You know, but the only poll that really matters is the one in the day, as everybody keeps telling us.
Correct. Even these people that have bailed out of the SNP, I am bloody sure that given an election for them to put their X in the box, they'll still support the SNP.
Well, we know, if the poll wants to be believed, we know that's the truth.
Yeah.
We also know that the latest poll saying support for independence is plummeting. Have been rubbished by the UK's top psephologist.
Yeah.
And that's John Curtis.
I'll just make a gentle point to Stephen McNeill. What mandates were ignored? Go and explain, Stephen, and I'll give you a piece of advice. When you're explaining, you're losing that argument.
Because every time there's been a mandate, they went and asked for Section 30 and get told no.
That's right.
So it hasn't been ignored. Well, it's been ignored by Westminster, not by the politicians who were voted in on that man.
Your democracy is being denied. And that ain't my fault. And it's not David's fault. It certainly wasn't Nicola Sturgeon's fault. All right?
And as to the way forward, everybody's got great ideas like people's assemblies and things like that. As far as I'm concerned, they're still going to ignore it. And you can't get unionists on the table. I also seen it. I read an article the other day there by some professor who was talking about writing the Constitution, whether we're devolved or independent, or writing the Constitution and putting it in front of the people before we have an independence vote.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution, as explained by Sarah Sawyer's Salvo, is actually written into our legal system.
Yeah.
So the Constitution's still there.
Mm-hmm.
It's codified in the legal system.
And it would still, no matter what's said, would require a vote by the people.
Yep.
You cannot just say, it says this, that, and the other in this particular law, and then therefore we are independent. You can't do that. You're still going to be
ratified by the people.
And Sarah agreed with that when she was on the programme.
It's going to be ratified by the people. I'm not against all these ideas, but there's only one way to show and express will of the people, and that's some sort of election.
You have to remember.
Of course, otherwise there are 2.1 million people or 2.5 million people who join the SNP.
Can I just say something here? This is from my own heart. See if Sarah and all the people that surround her, or Alba or whatever, see if you brought up some way whereby definitely we could achieve independence, right? And you actually made it happen. I'd personally go out and find a big fucking rock and a chisel, and I would chisel a woman's statue for you, right? How's about that? All right.
Yeah, there's Stephen's telling you. I mean, he was late with renewing his membership this year because of financial difficulties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's not a bad point, Joe, that we should be encouraging the people next door to take back control. That's what they wanted Brexit for.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I don't think it would take much to actually get them to shove for independence, because let's face it, the last poll I've seen on it was 49% in England for independence.
The people of England are being walked down the garden path. That's a very English saying, being walked down the garden path. And instead of what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing it as if they're just agreeing with what's going on. Jeremy Hunt is a nice person that's going to give them childcare. Jeremy Hunt says there's not going to be a recession.
Well, Geordie gave up his membership because he doesn't want Indy in 5 years or 10 years. He wants it now. That's not how it works.
Yeah, all right, Geordie.
We all want We all want it new, but you've got to organise some sort of some sort of a election to be able to bring it about.
Yeah.
As Angus Brendan McNeill said in section 7981 of the Supreme Court judgment, makes it clear there is power at the ballot box.
Yes, but you've got to get the ballot boxes out the cupboards.
Yep. And the argument the SNP right now is on which type of election to have as a plebiscite election. And David and I have already made our feelings clear on that one.
Yes.
As the next Westminster election is likely to be before the next Scottish general election, then you want a majority of MPs down there to say that you want to hold the next Scottish general election as a plebiscite election. After that Westminster election, then whoever's the leader can then just bang, snap Scottish election on the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. The
idea of making every single election about the independence, well, that's going to be the case going forward anyway.
In effect, you could actually have a situation whereby, if it was done this way around, where it was a Westminster election that was turned into a plebiscite, right? You could have a situation whereby a snap election, Scottish election, came straight after, straight off the back of that, right?
Yep.
And so in other words, you would have chance to actually doubly hit the thing twice, right?
And the other important thing about that, David, with a Westminster election is we've just seen the gerrymandering of a voting system with voter ID. Yeah. Because they haven't passed the bill to issue voter ID yet.
Yeah.
And we'll get an election coming up in May in England where voter ID is important. So a Westminster election wouldn't be ideal because it would take huge swathes of the pro-independence support who are among some of the poorest in society because they're the ones who need change most.
Yes. No, a suggestion there, right? I just got my daughter her first provisional license. A provisional license doesn't cost that much, right?
$27.50, I think it is, isn't it?
That's right. And it's like, I know for some people it would be an impossibility, but for a large majority they could manage that, and that would give you your photographic proof of who you are.
Aye.
Right? And that they can't get around because it's a proper driving. It doesn't matter whether you want to drive or not, right? It's a bit like our argument of get yourself signed up as a member of the SNP, right? It doesn't matter whether you want the SNP to succeed, but if we can all blooming get ourselves as SNP members, that would then show that how many people want independence.
Now, this one for Stephen's quite right, and those secret polls on attitudes on the union still haven't been published either, and he bets it's because it shows an impetus for English independence. Stephen, I have to agree with you. I've been saying that myself. The real reason these polls are being hidden is not because they know Scotland wants to get free. We have the social attitude studies that show us that. But what we do have is a fear that the idea of leaving the union would be at the forefront of people in England's minds. That scares Westminster even more because that would mean Westminster having to explain to people in England that they're too poor to stand on their own 2 feet. Simple as that.
Let's face it, all these bills that the Tories have put through, you can actually see that what they are is frightened. They are in fear of the UK breaking up, or at least the majority.
Now, Starmer is in Scotland today to tell us that he's going to turn Scotland into an innovation centre, especially in medical sciences. Mr. Starmer, here's a wee newsflash for you. We're already at the forefront of human sciences, medical sciences, all these things. We don't need Labour to help us with it. We're doing perfectly well, thank you very much. Now take off. Come up here and patronise us by telling us we're one of the most inventive people in the world. We know that! We invented the modern world, you spanner! Boom!
And he's got wee Annis at the side of him going, yes sir, I agree, sir. Poverty pay, well named.
Has got a good point. Well, that is a good point. If the new leader can call a snap out Scottish election, why did Nicola no do it after the Supreme Court judgment? Dead simple. Told you the infighting in the party is, do we use a Westminster plebiscite election or a Scottish plebiscite election. Nicola's idea of standing down was to allow the party to have that debate. That's why we were going to have that special conference.
Yeah.
Now the special conference won't happen until we have a new leader, if it ever happens. Who's just talking about people's assemblies?
Nicola did not agree with the idea that Angus Brendan McNeill put forward about the plebiscite election idea. In actual fact, there was a conference where Angus Brendan McNeill presented that particular thing, and he was shouted down quite naturally by the people at the SNP conference.
Yep.
And then we lost the ability to run a referendum. We didn't lose they made it illegal to do it, right?
Better address this one.
Yeah.
Apparently, they won't do people assemblies. Hold on. Now, this is the Alberfest guy. That's a troll for the day of the beer. You wouldn't. You're already dismissed it. Actually, I've got the copy of the paper there where Holmes said that during this contest so far that he would introduce people's assemblies to discuss the way forward. I've got it here in the national newspaper. So Holmes said they would introduce people's assemblies. To me, you can't get the unionists on the table, so what's the point? You've only got 50% of the population at the table.
That's right. They won't come and discuss. They will not come and discuss.
Ian Murray was asked on the telly the other week there, under what circumstances would Labour allow a Scottish referendum or a plebiscite election on independence? And Ian Murray said, never, not ever. That's Labour's response to Scottish democracy. Yeah. And as the Alpers' response to Scottish democracy, you don't count!
Yeah.
You're not even in people's minds. You were too Stevens named your bloody party after the country so nobody noticed you. You're invisible.
What's the name of the wee lassie MP that she's always on TV, and what she did was she said, I've got the best way to deal with Scotland if they actually try and go for a referendum. We'll deal with them the same way Spain dealt with Catalonia.
Aye, can't battle their heads in.
Aye, you just I can't believe that anybody within Labour would say such a thing. Never mind think it, you know.
And Lorraine Hay at the Edinburgh hustings, Holmes said that he would bring in people assemblies. As I say, we've all had the idea of people assemblies on a few occasions. In fact, it's been kicking about for a long time. But the realists amongst us realise that we're only going to get 50% around the table, so you can't get an agreement going forward if you only one-sided the negotiations at the table.
Right, come on, that's time up. We've had our fun. All right.
We've had our fun for the day. Advice to the Alpha Party: change your party name so people know you're a party, and then stop being so bloody hostile to everybody. It's not how to win friends and influence people. It's no.
Yeah.
If you're going to actually make headway in this democracy, offer us policies we can vote for instead of a big sign across a motorway that says Scotland for independence.
Yeah.
Instead of a political party for independence. At least we know when the Greens put it in their manifesto where it is, when the SNP put in a manifesto where it is, because we know the SNP and Greens are political parties. ALPA means Scotland. It doesn't mean political party to the average Joe in the street. And when only 2% of the population know you exist, then you want a name that's going to be catchy. Yeah. And that ain't it. Right. Anyway, that's enough of bashing everybody and everything for today.
But we can swear again. What do you fucking think of that?
After 70 seconds apparently, so we'll get the stopwatch on as we start the shows. Now, we've covered a vast variety of subjects today, and we'll probably upset a few people as well, but that's the whole idea of this programme, is to actually, bounce it about.
Yeah.
So Alpha Fest, you're welcome. I might even come along to the Alpha Fest next year. Just out of curiosity, the two Davies might come along and cover it.
Any discount for SNP members?
Cheap coffee for SNP members at the Alpha Party.
I show my card going in, that gives me 10% off.
You got to remember, folks, when we're criticising the Alpha Party, we're not doing on them. They're our friends.
Yeah, come on.
It's friendly advice for a start. Get the name of a party that's going to kick into people's consciousness.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And make sure you can announce it.
Yeah.
And Nathan McAllister says, "So Alapa Gubra." Scotland's rising. You're right, kid.
Right. Sorry about this. Sore throat and all the rest of it. Couldn't help it. I promised next time I'm on here, I will try and be a bit more. I'll do my la 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 before I come on. All right, okay. So I just want to say,
if you're on YouTube, please hit the like button. It helps the channel.
Subscribe.
And once you've subscribed, get your kids to subscribe. Get everybody else to subscribe.
And your granny and your granddad, if you've got one, get them to subscribe.
Right, come on, I start working 54 minutes.
Right.
So subscribe, hit the like button. If you're on Facebook and you're going to share this, give me a couple of minutes to get over there and change the video to public. As you know, Meta's restricted my range, so I've got to change it to public after the broadcast finished. Thanks very much for all your donations again today, folks. Every penny counts, every penny helps. And say David's looking at a way that we can get the people on Facebook involved in the crowdfunding as well, and maybe cut out the percentage that YouTube make up the back. Charity. But David, I think there's a clause in it with YouTube. If you can prove you're a charity and you're trying to get charity status for us, if you can prove you're a charity, they take less of a chunk.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We're going to find that out. So far, I've just written to them, actually embarrassing them and saying, "What's that all about?" When we're trying to feed people that have no food.
Aye.
You know, and you're taking 30% off. That's ridiculous. Anyway, guys, bye-bye. Bye-bye,
baby. Alaka Gubra.
What was that? Were you clearing your throat?
Aye, something like that. Listen, I've got a pair of wellies to put on. I've got work to do. I'll catch you later, guys. Thanks very much for joining us again. And we'll see you on Monday to do it all again. Or there might be an impromptu somewhere along the way. You never know. I might jump on because I'm going to have my dinger about something. Davey might do a solo if he's going to have a dinger about something. Yeah. He knows how to get in and start the show. He's got his 8 version of this downloaded.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm scared.
You need me there to hold your horn, sir. Right, bugger off. This stream's coming to an end. Thanks very much for viewing, folks. We'll see you 183. Wasn't bad considering I didn't put the notice out. Yeah. I'll mind to put a notice out for Monday's show. Okay. Catch you later, folks. Bye then.
Well, guys, have a good weekend. Right.
Bye, Davey.